All right. Did you recover from golf?
I did. You know, I wore sunscreen, so
Does it require recovering?
it depends.
Really?
You know, if you hit the ball and you get more of the ground than you do the ball,
Ah,
Sometimes you have to recover.
yeah, your wrist might, your,
yeah, I didn't think about that.
your feelings, your
Oh,
emotions.
Okay. Let's so we are done with purchase agreements, right?
We're on counteroffers.
We're on counter offers. That's what I've got. So are you on the counter offer? That would be yeah. Perfect. Okay, so before we start, any questions that you might have? You know, we went over stuff the other day, with agency. Do you have any?
Not yet. Probably not until I will need
Yeah.
one.
One? Yeah, okay. All right. You good too?
I think so.
All right. So, counter offers. When do we get a counter offer?
When the other side is not quite agreeing to
Right,
the proposed.
right. So we get a counter offer when we put in a purchase agreement, we submit a purchase agreement to the seller. And the seller doesn't like some of the terms. Okay, so it could be price, that could be closing, that could be our commissions that we're asking for. Anything with those are the most common ones: commissions, price, closing date.
Could it be improvements? Could it be improvements at all? But
Well,
not so much
maybe not so much in
account.
the counter offer. We're just really talking about the terms that we asked for in the purchase agreement. So inspections and stuff will come later, but that probably won't be on a counter. So we're going to start. So all parties understand seller reserves the right to accept any offer prior to the buyer's acceptance of this counter offer. So that's really an interesting statement there. It kind of goes, they don't say time is of the essence anymore, which I didn't ever quite know why they took that out, but time is of the essence. Timing is everything on these contracts, right? Because if you, just like it says, they reserves the right to accept any other offer. So we get an offer put in, they send us a counter offer. So I call my buyer and say, all right, buyer, we got a counter offer here. Here's the terms of it. Well, let's think about it here for a little bit and we'll let you know what we decide. Well, they get another offer that's full price cash. They're going to call me up. That seller agent's going to call me up and say, hey, Will, that counter offer that we just sent you, we're rescinding it. We're taking it away because we've got another offer that we'd rather take. And we're out. So we have to be very quick about making a decision. And you have to tell your client that, yeah, Mr. Buyer, we can sure take your time, you can think about it, but keep in mind another offer could come in while we're making our decision. So just to let you know, we're more of a how could I say it? More of an information. We're letting you want to make sure that your client knows the situation. If you don't say anything to that client, right? If you don't say, hey, great, take your time, but here's what could happen.
They could be.
Yeah, and they take their time and then all of a sudden they get kicked out and you didn't tell them that. Well, they're going to say, well, you didn't tell me. You know what I'm saying? So you really just have to, make sure that they're aware of the situation, right? So that's, does it happen? It happens, but not a whole bunch, usually, usually another offer comes in and now there's multiple offers, right? So we need to know that there's another offer. Like, for example, I just wrote one, just this morning, and there was another offer potentially coming in on this. And what we did, we were gonna look at the house on Friday. We made an appointment to look at this house on Friday. My clients heard, it's in a small town, so my clients heard that somebody else was looking at the house and was kind of serious. So they called me and said, what can we do? And I said, well, let's write the offer now. We'll make a contingency. So if you go back one page, go back 2 pages. And number 23, I wrote in this section, I said, this offer is contingent upon buyers viewing and approving the property on Friday, the 31st or August 1st, whatever it was. I think it's August 1st on Friday, but that's how I worded it. So this is a contingency, right? So we wrote the offer, wanting to get our foot in the door, right? In case there was another offer that came in.
And they just would have accepted that flat out.
Yeah, if they would have
To look at
accepted that, then we wouldn't have had a chance to even look at it.
Yeah,
So we got it, and we don't have it under contract yet, but we put the offer in. If they accept it, then we have until Friday evening to look at it. And we'll make a decision right away when we go in and look at it. And then we remove our contingency, and we'll talk about that in a second, what form to use on that. Okay, so it's just another little way to kind of get in there and.
But in that case, if the second offer came before your client looked at it, and it was better than this house, the seller, then can they still accept it even though they?
So, good, that's a good question. So we put our offer in now. She says that she's getting another offer, but hasn't got it yet. Okay, let's say this evening she gets it. She presents both of them. I put a deadline of mine. I put a deadline of tomorrow at noon. So that's the deadline that they need to respond to us. So the other agent's probably gonna go sit down with the seller, say, all right, here's 2 offers. This one, here's the terms here, and here's the terms of ours. They want to see it, so they want that contingency, they want to look at it. Okay. View and approve it. This other one is close to asking price, good terms. They've already seen the house. So what would you like to do? Well, maybe the seller's gonna say, well, let's take this one. They've already seen it. There's no contingency, just normal stuff like inspections. So they're gonna accept this offer. She's gonna call me and say, hey, I'm sorry. You know, we accepted the other offer. So I probably won't go and show the house. I'll just let you know.
So basically it's still not.
So it's not a done
guarantee.
deal.
Right, it doesn't.
But it gives them something to think about,
Yeah.
right? It gives
Right.
that seller, well, we got 2 offers now. Maybe this other one is lower than ours.
Well, that's probably the only hope too.
Yeah, I hope so. You know,
so when they're countering, they can't counter both. can they?
yes, they can. So
Oh.
that's
All right,
kind of where we're going here.
okay.
Very good. So we're gonna go ahead and start on this counter offer. Where it says counter offer number, we're gonna put number 1. Put the date. So we're gonna put counter offer number 1. We're gonna put today's date and the time. When are we countering it? Okay. Or when are they countering it? In response to the offer to purchase dated. So what was the date of your purchase agreement? You're gonna put that date in there. For the real property commonly known as, and then you're gonna put the address. Made by, and then the buyer's name's gonna be in there, okay? Now, keep in mind, the seller agent is gonna fill this out. Because the seller agent's the one counter offering, right? All right. The made by Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the buyers, it's gonna say, the following counter offer is hereby submitted. So the seller is counter offering our buyers, right? Now, Dan said you can't counter both of them, can you? Yes, you can.
Yeah, okay.
And so we've got two offers. Now, remember when we were going through the purchase agreement and it said what happens in a multiple offer situation, and the seller can dictate whatever they want to do. So the seller could look at both those offers and go, yeah, I really like this one. This one's pretty clean. It doesn't have the contingency on it. Let's just go ahead and accept this one. The price is right, and let's just reject this one. Or you could accept this one, counter this one, and say, we are countering in a backup
Oh, okay.
situation.
Yes, it has to stay in a backup.
Mhm. So,
Okay.
and if this one falls through and we get this one accepted, then we move in.
Otherwise, two counters, whoever accepts it first is,
No,
No.
not really. And you know what? That's the way it used to be in the old days. And I had, this is before I was even the broker. We had another guy, this is 12 years ago, maybe. Had another guy that was our sales manager. It was before we were Keller Williams. And we usually didn't get a lot of multiple offer situations, but we started to get them. The market was doing kind of weird and we were starting to get multiple offers. And we said, how do you deal with that? You know, so we came to our broker at the time. How do we deal with that? What would you do? And he goes, oh, in the old days, we used to counter them both, send them out. Whoever got it back to us first wins.
that's what I thought.
And I go, I said, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, my guy lives, because it was one of my deals, and I go, I don't like that, because my guy lived, 50 miles away, and it was back before you had e-signature and all that kind of stuff. So I was gonna have to go get him, or he was gonna have to come here
Right,
and sign. He ain't gonna make it back
yeah,
before the other guy, so we're probably not gonna make it. So what we did, we came up with a way to word it. So what we would do is we countered both of them the exact same. And what we said was, in the little box, we are in a multiple offer situation. Buyers to bring their highest and best offer. Seller reserves the right to accept, reject, or counter any offer. And that's how we put it on there. Both people get the same counter.
okay.
Okay, so your buyer gets the counter, Tatiana's buyer gets the counter. And you're each gonna go to your buyer and say, all right, we're in a multiple offer situation. Let's bring our best offer. How can we change the offer we presented? How can we change it to make it so he's gonna pick our offer, right? So probably price, probably inspection items. Maybe you're only gonna do the inspection to ask for any major repairs, things like that, and just kind of make them feel better. Maybe you up your earnest money. You know, just certain things like that, right? Now, you're thinking, all right, well, the old way was first guy in wins. This way, you get both of them in, you might get, you still have a timeline, you got to get them in by tomorrow at 8. So you get both of them in tomorrow at 8 and you look at both of them. And you reserve the right to pick the one that you want, right? So you're gonna say, well, you know what? I kind of like this one because it's a quicker close, they paid full price, they're up in their earnest money, whatever. So it's a little bit better. Then you're gonna be able to see both. Well, the old days, what if you would have said, all right, first one in, and the first one in
As a seller, you're not.
wasn't as good as the one that got in late.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
So that's how you do multiple offer situations. Now, it's becoming less common that I have seen that we counter like that. Saying highest and best, and just because we've got a ton of, sometimes when you get multiple, you might have 4 offers. That's why they added that verbiage in there, the seller's discretion, they can do what they want to do. Because throwing a blanket counter to 4 people, let's say, it's all the same thing, well, the chances of you getting 2 counters are exactly the same, right? Maybe 2 of them come in and they're 10,000 over asking price. Well, how do you pick that, right? So what we've been doing the last few years is we've actually, when we got multiples, we'll just sit down and you gotta make sure you hit the timeline, right? Can't go over.
Yeah,
But we'll sit right down and we'll say, all right, which one do you like better? Well, this one, I like this one because it's cash. So I'll pick up the phone and I'll call the agent and I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm with my seller. They really like your offer. Number one, because it's cash. But would your buyer be willing to up their price? Just flat out say it. And sometimes yes, sometimes no. And we did that. And one in particular, it was kind of interesting because I think we had 5 offers. And one was cash, but it was like 30,000 low. But it was cash, it was easy, quick close, but they were 30 grand low. So that was the first one we called. Hey, we really like your offer. It's a little low, so are they willing to come up? And if they are willing to come up, give us the price, because we're holding these other ones off until we hear from you. So the guy called me back in 10 minutes and said, well, he's just gonna hold where he's at. And I said, all right. We put that one over here because we weren't gonna take that one because it was really low.
yeah,
Then we started working on the other 4 that all had financing. And we just kind of put it in order. Which one? Okay, we're gonna work on this one. Hey, we got 5 offers here. We're giving you a chance because we like your terms. We're giving you a chance to up the price. And it was amazing. This agent took it. This agent said, yep, I'll call you back. And they upped the price and went ahead and accepted it and rejected the other ones. Now, if I would have been a little bit smarter, I would have probably called the other ones instead of just rejecting them. I probably would have called the other ones and said, hey, we didn't take your offer, but we're going to send you a counter offer in a backup position. Now, they could say, no, we don't want to be in a backup position. And then we would reject it, but I didn't give them that chance, and I probably should have done that, so.
So if you're in a backup position, do you have to write like a contingency that if you find something better,
Mhm.
you're gonna rescind it or?
Yep, very good. So what you write when you do a backup position, you say you're gonna do something to the effect of, you are in a backup position in the event the buyer finds suitable housing before being put into first position, this offer can be canceled. You know, just something to that effect, you know, you can word it a little different if you want, but basically saying, hey, if we find something better, we're out.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, yeah, you don't wanna be, you're gonna continue to look, and you don't wanna be. You don't
Buying
wanna,
two homes.
right, right. And that brings up another question, what happens? What happens when you find something? Do you cancel this one before?
Before the other one gets accepted or?
That's almost what I would do. Now, if you think it through, I get a little nervous with that because it's like, all right, well, we're sitting in a backup offer, but my buyer wants to put in an offer over here. So we write this offer, we negotiate it out, we get it accepted. Do we turn around and say, all right, we're done, we found something, we're done? What if they said, oh, well, you're in first position? Because this other one just canceled, you're in first position. Now you're going, okay, so I got this one and I got this one. Now, you have to sign off on this one. Because they're gonna do an addendum to put you in first position,
Okay.
right? So you'll have to sign that in order to be in first position. Still makes me nervous. Cause the way people sue people nowadays,
Yeah,
you know, we probably still win, but boy, I don't like that. So I always tell my client, let's go ahead and cancel this so we're not stuck, and then let's work on this one. Cause we can always come back and redo it if we don't get this one and we want to
and if you're the most attractive, it doesn't matter, you're still gonna be.
right.
Okay.
And chances are, it's very, very low when you're in a backup that you're really gonna get it.
Yeah,
Not very often. Now, I've had two or three of them that we ended up getting it because the other deal fell through, but it doesn't happen a lot.
it's more of a participant driven.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. You got second place, yeah. So anyway, so the buyers, the seller is going to write in here in the big box the items that they don't like about our offer that we submitted. Purchase price to be $475. Closing date to be September 1st. Earnest money to be increased to $4,000, you know, those kind of things. And then at the bottom or right underneath that box, it says all other terms to remain the same. So what that is saying that the only thing that you're writing in the counteroffer are the things that you want changed. Okay? This counteroffer is withdrawn immediately upon the seller's written acceptance of any other offer as stated above. So again, they're saying this counteroffer is withdrawn. Seller's written acceptance of another offer. So that seller accepts another offer. So keep that in mind too. If you're the seller agent, and you guys get another offer. And you've got an counter offer out there, and your seller says, I want this offer, not the guy we just countered. I mean, immediately pick up the phone, send a text, call the agent. So you have kind of a written, trail, I guess we could say, of that. And then call them and say, hey, I just sent you a text. We are rescinding the counter offer. So what happens, and I'm throwing all this stuff out there, what happens if the other agent, the other agent that you're pulling the counter offer from says, oh, they just signed it. Which I've had personally not had happen, but I've had agents that's happened to them. And then they come to me and they go, what happened? They said, we pulled the counter and they said they just signed it. That's a little sticky. Now with electronic signatures, it's a little bit easier to prove, but a wet signature, they could date it whenever, they could time it whenever, even though they signed it. It's 8 o'clock and they signed it at, they could say they signed it at 7:30, right?
Yeah, plus, like, I don't know, what if your agent just set their phone down, we're having some in the other room, and you know what I mean? For a half an hour, this all transpires, right,
Yeah.
in half an hour that they didn't see it. So,
Yeah. And see, that's another one. God, I'm trying to think of, we had. That's a really good question because. And it was on a counteroffer situation where, so. Trying to think exactly what the scenario was. But bottom
just a
line.
big signal wherever you are, so you didn't even see.
Yeah, let's say I sent you a counteroffer, right? And I sent you a text and I said, hey, Dan, I'm sending you a counteroffer. You email the counteroffer over. And you have till, 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon to respond. Or 8 o'clock in the morning to respond, let's say. And your phone died, or you were somewhere where you didn't have service or whatever, and you didn't get it till you came down off the hill and it was 7:30 in the morning and you have a half hour and you frantically call your person
awakened by their phone.
Yeah, and it was something to that effect where there's another offer that came in and they didn't see this counter offer. And it was a big stink. They called up, they said, well, we didn't see the counter offer. You didn't give us enough time to respond. We didn't see the counter offer. Well, whose fault is that? Because I sent it to you, I sent you a text, and you didn't respond. Right? And it was kind of a mess. And people were mad. The buyers were mad because they didn't have a chance to respond to the counter offer. Another offer came in.
Yeah, no, that's ugly.
And it is. So as an agent, keep that in mind. Don't ever, I mean, there's times where you don't respond to people. But when it comes to a something that's time is of the essence, and I'm never into don't respond to somebody, but there are times when it's urgent, and times when it's not. A lot of times people figure out, if I have an agent, and I don't want you to think I'm talking about either of you, but if I have an agent that's constantly calling me and asking me the tiniest little things that they should know already, I have agents that, I've even told them, I said, really, you should know this. You've done a number of deals. You should know this. Yeah, well, I really want to make sure. You know, I kind of thought you'd say this, but you know what I mean? So sometimes you get like, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. I usually call people back, but sometimes it's like you look at the phone, you go, oh, I wonder what they're gonna ask now, you know? But anyway, on offers and things like that, you really, you wanna make sure that you're responding. If you get an offer, respond to that other agent and say, got it, thanks for the offer, I'll let you know. Even if you don't pick up the phone, shoot them a text, let them know that you got that offer. And vice versa, if you send an offer, or if you send an offer and they don't respond to you, call them, and make sure. You know what? Maybe that's something that our agent probably should have done, and that was kind of the fight, the pushback was, hey, well, yeah, you said it, but you didn't follow up to make sure that I got it. So it's kind of a big deal.
Dot loop will show when it was sent, right? So
Dot loop knows this is
the best you could do is you send it, okay, they didn't see it, whatever. You can text and then you call, and then after that, I don't know, you're kind of,
Dot
unless
loop
you're gonna
even,
go over to their house.
right.
Right.
Dot loop even knows if they looked at it.
Oh, yeah.
Cause it'll say, you'll click on it and it'll say viewed by Tatiana.
Which helps, right?
Yeah.
That helps a lot. So,
So you can say, hey, she viewed it. Then I don't know if it says the time that she viewed it, but it says that she viewed it. Hasn't signed it yet.
yeah, well, you might be like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I'm, whatever, I'm in a stoplight, I can't read this thing right now, but it's there, and yeah, that's what I thought it was. Oh, I turned green, okay.
Again, it doesn't happen a lot, but the courtesy of making sure that the other agent knows, you know, in fact, I'm saying all this stuff, I want to make sure that she. Oh, Chloe said she wasn't gonna be able to make it. I want to make sure that this agent did see it. So 12:47. I said, offer sent your way, and she didn't say anything.
And your phone does not show if it's.
Says it's delivered,
Delivered.
but it didn't say that she read it. Like the other one, the one up above later or earlier today said she read it. I'm just gonna say making sure you got the offer. And see if she answers me. So that'd be that's a good test. Let's see if it works. All right, all other terms remain the same. So just the items we're countering, right? This offer is withdrawn immediately. Then it says where it says it shall expire unless written acceptance delivered to the seller or seller's agent on or before. And that's the response date, time and date. So I usually, probably more times than not, try to give 24 hours. That's usually what I do. Unless it's a tight situation. If I'm doing anything that's a quick turnaround, usually on counter offers, the seller's gonna be counter offering us. A seller is probably, and this is I don't know if this is my goofy way of thinking, but if I'm representing a seller, I'm probably gonna give a longer period of time.
So more stuff comes in.
So more stuff comes in. So if I'm writing this, I might give them, 24 hours, or if I'm writing it now, I might give them till 5 o'clock.
With the buyer, you're
tomorrow.
like, you got 5 minutes. And then they're like, no, you're like, okay, I'll submit another.
Yeah, don't do 5 minutes.
I know.
But but if you're doing, if we're writing the purchase agreement. And it's a hot property, or it's a property that just came on the market and we want to get that. Call that agent up and say, hey, we're writing an offer. It's a great offer. I mean, you can even tell them, hey, I'm writing a full price offer here. Will your seller be able to do a quick acceptance? And can they do a couple hours? If it's 1:30, can they answer by 5 o'clock tonight or 4 o'clock? Usually they'll say, well, yeah, it's a good offer. Yeah, get it to me and I'll present it right away. Communication is the key to that. If I call you, if I say, hey, Tatiana, can your client respond by 4 o'clock this afternoon? I'm writing a really good offer. It's real clean, strong earnest money, full price. Can they respond by 4?
They're like, no, they get out of town for the rally and they're.
I would still need to consult with the client
Yeah.
on that, right?
Yeah.
I can't just answer, like, if I don't know.
So, yeah, you just say, you know what, I will try to get a hold of them, and you send it over. I'll try to get it. You could do something like that. If I just send it to you and say, hey, Tatiana, I'm sending you an offer, confirm that you got it. And I send it to you and you look at it and it says response time 4 o'clock, you're gonna go, well, what the heck is he doing?
Like, people are on a plane right now, they're
Yeah.
not gonna respond.
So that's why we call, especially on something like that, because you want to give that courtesy that, hey, we are writing an offer, which is cool. We like your house, but we want a quick response time, and I'm not just springing it on you. So I urge, anytime it's something a little out of the ordinary, call and just let them know that, hey, we'd like a quick response time. My buyers are leaving town. They'd really like a response by the time they left to know that they've got something. That happens a lot too. People fly in or drive in and then they leave right away. So just be upfront. So anyway, they're gonna put the expiration date there and then the sellers are gonna sign it. Okay, then we get it as the buyer agent and it says the undersigned buyer. Dated today's date and the time that we're gonna counter or accept. They're gonna say 1:39 p.m. The buyer accepts the above counter offer. So you check that box. Or they reject the above counter offer. So they don't like anything that was countered, so they're gonna reject it.
They're like, we're not close.
We're
enough."
done.
Yeah.
Or if you want to keep it going, if they have a counter offer, your buyers have a counter offer, you're gonna check submit the following changes to the above counter offer expiring on, so we're gonna check that box. We're gonna say expiring on 7/31 at 10 a.m. And we're gonna say, then we're gonna do our counter to that. We're gonna do our counter to this counter. Well, they want full price. You know what? Instead of 475, we'll go 47. So purchase price to be 470. And we're good with changing that closing date. We're fine with that. We're fine with the more earnest money. So all we really are worried about is the price. So purchase price to be 470. All other items remain the same. Buyer signs it, submits it to the seller agent. And then the seller is gonna accept it, reject it, or counter again. And
I'm
it,
getting tired.
and it happens. But so that's how the counter process goes, back and forth until we come up with a deal. Remember if we go on to another, if we do another counter form, everything, these counter forms stay intact, right? You don't just turn in the last counter form. You know what I'm saying? If there's another counter form, so let's say we countered it, 475, 4,000 earnest money, closing date, September 1st. The buyer gets it back and he says 470, and he's good with everything else. Well, that seller gets it, and that seller wants to counter at 472.5. So he's going to say submits counter offer number 2. He's going to sign it. We're going to get a new counter offer form, the same thing, but just a different one, a blank one. And we're going to say, we're going to fill it all out, and then we're going to say purchase price to be 472.5. Okay, so we're seeing the progression of the offer, and now it's in 2 counter forms, right? So you're gonna have to read all those counter forms, because if you just read the last one, you're gonna see, okay, 472.5, you've got the right price, but you don't have the right earnest money,
Oh,
you don't have the right closing date if you didn't look at the other counters. If you have a person that does your transactions, like a transaction coordinator or something like that, make sure they read that, because it tells the whole story. And I've caught Angel a couple times. She said something to me, and luckily, and the older I get, the more I forget, right? But luckily, sometimes I remember, and it's like, she goes, okay, closing is, or we need the $2,500 earnest money. Well, I think it's 4,000. You better check the other counter offer. Oh, yeah, I forgot that. So now all of a sudden, earnest money, that they call the client and say, hey, remember to drop your earnest money off. And she says 2,500.
you're like, oh, good.
Yeah. So it can be a problem. So make sure, if you're doing it, make sure you read all the counters. If you have somebody, a transaction coordinator doing it, make sure that you read, or they read all counters. Another story I've got. This was years ago. I was the seller agent. And I'll tell you how long ago it was. Well, I'll give you the price of the house out in Rapid Valley. Yeah, I think it was 120,000. So that's how long ago it was. And it was a nice place. Well, it was 18 years ago, probably. And we did I got a purchase agreement from an agent, and we counted it. We got it accepted. Everything was good. We got all the way through inspections and the whole thing, and the appraisal came in, and the banker called me. The buyer's agent, or the buyer's lender, called me because they couldn't get a hold of the buyer's agent at all. They left. And she said, I remember her saying, we sent messages and emails and phone messages and the whole bit, and she just won't answer my phone. So she says, we have one item on the appraisal that needs addressed, and I want to tell you about it because she's not answering her phone. I said, okay. She goes, well, good news, the property appraised at, and she said like 117.5 or something like that. And it was for 120. And I go, well, wait a minute. I go, what do you mean? And she goes, 117.5. And I go, but the purchase price is 120. Oh, I didn't know that. I said, didn't you get the counteroffer? That other agent did not, because we, as seller agents, we don't deal with the lender, right? It's up to the buyer agent to send all the stuff to the lender. That agent did not send a counteroffer. So the appraiser, the lender, everybody thought the price was 117.5 or whatever. Luckily, the appraiser changed it and got everything good. Nowadays, I don't know if they would, to be honest with you, because the appraisers are so tough now, but that was not good.
So they get to see, the appraiser sees how much the,
Mhm.
okay. So they.
They basically get the answers to the test.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I always look at it, but the more you get into knowing the way that they do appraisals and the reason they do appraisals, it makes sense because they just have to justify that price. Really, I mean, an appraiser gets the purchase agreement, and the counteroffer, and they're saying, all right, the house is 150,000. The lender is giving 150,000 to the buyer for this house. He works for the bank, right? Or they don't work for the bank, but they're hired by the bank.
Okay.
They're not,
Yeah.
the appraiser isn't working for the buyer. The appraiser is working for the bank to justify the price that the bank is giving the buyer, right? So all they really have to do is justify that 150,000. And if it appraises for over, that's good. If it's under, then that bank they're not gonna give the money. Right? So what happens if it appraises for 145?
Oh, then you gotta cough up $5,000 from someone.
Somebody's gotta cough up $5,000. Is it gonna be the buyer? Is it gonna be the seller? Is the seller gonna come down to 145? That's the first thing we ask when we're a buyer agent. Is, hey, Will, if you're, I hate this word, but if the appraiser comes up and goes, yeah, we have a tidewater situation. That's what tidewater means in appraisal world, means it's under the value, right? So they say, we have a tidewater situation. Can you send me some comps? We're 5,000 low. Can you, what did they use for comps? Just, all this kind of weird stuff. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call that seller agent and I'm gonna say, hey, appraisal came back and we're 5,000 low. Would your seller be willing to reduce the price to 145,000 and we can continue on? Because in the purchase agreement, it says contingent on appraising, right?
Okay, yeah.
So you are going to, as the seller agent, you're gonna call that seller and you're gonna say, hey, it didn't appraise. Are you willing to come down to 145? Nope. I would split it with them though, if they, I'll split the difference. I'll come in at 147.5. They're gonna call me back. Well, we'll split it. So 147.5, well, okay, that's great. But the bank's only gonna give you 145, right?
But the seller can still pay that difference. I always thought that appraisal has to be, I didn't think for some reason from taking a class that appraisal might be influenced at all by anything rather than giving a very correct answer on appraisal. I mean, like it sounded from when you said that they will see the offer and the counter offer, and I think it almost sounded like they may be a little bit influenced by something. I always thought that they have to be, that's why they have a
They have
different
to be not
education.
biased.
They have to be not biased and they have to be obviously for the bank eventually has to have the upper hand in it, like it has to be appraised properly, because if they're gonna have to sell it, like in case something goes wrong.
Yep.
It's protecting the mortgage, right?
Yeah, you're very right.
So, and especially if it's a hot market, even if it was appraised less, but seller think that they can get good offer nonetheless, they don't have to come down, right?
They
That's
don't
gonna
have to
be
come down.
up to seller if they just wanna pay the difference in the mortgage.
Yep, they don't have to come down. And the buyer doesn't have to buy it.
But they still get to see that number, so they kind of, I think. The bank only makes money if they lend money, so they kind of gotta work their way backward, like you said, to justify, like
But
if prices didn't go up. You'd still be selling it for 120 grand instead of whatever they go for now, so. Someone's gotta be the new ceiling.
But
Yeah, you're right. No,
Well,
you understand it.
since appraisal is, yes, since they protecting the bank and their investment,
Mhm.
in case of something goes wrong, the client goes whatever under, doesn't pay and bank has to repossess the house, they need to be able to sell it for the price to return maximum of the borrowed money,
Mhm.
right? So it's at least.
Yep. Here's the thing with appraising. You could, and it's subjective.
Is it?
Yep, appraiser. Say you two are appraisers. And you're gonna appraise the same house. You're gonna come up with a different number than Dan.
Yeah, hopefully not by much. though.
Hopefully not by
Because
much.
that's why they have education and
Mhm.
that. I don't know, of course, how.
But it's not gonna be the same, I guarantee you that.
Yeah,
You could,
Especially like in weird markets, right? Like if there's not a lot to look at.
well, you might use different comparables.
yeah.
You know, you might pick, you're gonna be in the same area. But you might pick a certain house because you think that one is more like this house. And Dan might say, you know what, I like this one, I feel it's more like this house. And maybe they were $5,000 apart in price, so that factors in. $5,000 isn't a lot.
Mm.
But don't they I guess they would show them that number just, because you'd kind of be like, am I missing something maybe? And gives you a chance to double check so it doesn't fall apart.
They do. Am I missing something? That's why they ask, what were your comparables? Did you use something that I wasn't seeing?
Mhm.
Now, not to be slamming appraisers because I shouldn't do that, but a lot of times you do come up with stuff. Oh yeah, well, we use this one. Oh, well, yeah, I don't like that one. So we come up with something to try to remedy,
Yeah,
and they don't use it anyway. They're saying that they'll come up with some excuse that you're just the realtor.
Right.
I'm the appraiser. I know what's going on, And it's like, well, why'd you ask me? If you're just gonna keep it at 145, then just keep it at 145 and we'll deal with it. A lot of times it'll work out, especially if it's that little bit of a deal, or a difference, it'll work out. Somebody will come down in price, they'll meet halfway, the buyer will come up with the 2,500 and the seller will come down 2,500. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. And what I'm saying is, they could close on that house and hire another appraiser after they close. And that they won't because it costs them money, but if they did, then that house might appraise for more. Might appraise for 153, who knows? So it's a subjective thing. It's not an exact science.
Well, I guess same as the even price on a house in the first place. I mean, if you look at all of this, at least Zillows and stuff, they always give you a range, right? I
Mhm.
mean, nobody can put an exact number on it
Right.
unless,
The appraisers put an exact number.
well, yes.
We put a range. And when we do CMAs, we're gonna do those next week. Or coming up in the next couple weeks. now you might get a better handle on how appraisers do their job. Because the adjustment page that we actually got that from an appraiser. We sat down with an appraiser and worked out some numbers. It was pretty interesting. So counter offers, you get it? Understand it?
Yes.
When you do your first deal and you get a counter offer or have to fill one out if you're the seller, just get with me. I can sure do it. I can sure help you.
Could you just one more time explain? So after the seller, for example, sends a counter offer and then buyer, like if buyer accept it, that it's gonna be on the same.
Yep.
But then if the seller gonna counter offer again, that's when it counts as a second,
Yes,
and that's gonna be a different.
yes.
Okay, I
It-
just wanted to.
It doesn't happen too terrible often. I know that I say that about a lot of stuff, but it really doesn't. Not. You might get 1 out of 5 or 6 that go more than 1 page on a counter offer. Doesn't happen a lot. What's the next form you guys see?
Contingency removal.
Contingency removal. This is my favorite form.
Yeah.
Chris Twiggs wanted to change it. He goes, oh, I really like this other one, and I don't. She hasn't got back to me yet.
Mhm.
That's not good. I'm gonna have to get on her after class. So why would you use a contingency removal form?
When you fix something that's contingent.
When you remove something that you remove one of your contingencies, and remember, contingencies are kind of safeguards on your purchase agreement that allows your client to maybe have an out if they want to get out. Inspections are the big one. Most important thing in the purchase agreement, I said, was, in my opinion, is the timeline for the inspections, right? So remember when we put 12 business days for the inspection time frame? So we have to, this is the final piece of that 12-day rule, or whatever you put in there, put 10 or whatever. But this is the thing that stops that time frame, is the contingency removal. So let's say that we do the inspection. The inspection comes back and there are a few things that need to be done. Radon. Say they did a radon test, the radon was high. We're gonna say, fill out the property address, seller's name, buyer's name. The buyers notify the sellers that the contingency clause in the purchase agreement dated the date of the purchase agreement now isn't the date you wrote it. It's the date that the final counteroffer was accepted. Or if they just flat out accepted the purchase agreement without countering, which happens, it's that date. So it's the date that you actually went under contract. So if we wrote if I wrote this offer that I sent to Cheyenne McGriff, I wrote that on 7/30, and we finally get it accepted on 7/31. And then I remove the contingency, it's gonna say purchase agreement accepted on 7/31, which states, and then that box right under that little rectangle box, you're gonna say property inspection. Because that is the contingency we're removing, right? So property inspection is hereby removed, providing the seller do the following. That is where you list the items from the purchase agreement or from the inspection report that your buyer wants to ask the seller to fix. So radon test showed a result of 8.4 picocuries. And 4 is the EPA limit. So anything under a 4 is acceptable, anything over a 4 is not. So you're gonna want to state in here, it was an 8.4, whatever that result was, right? If the result was 2.7, well, we're not gonna ask to have a radon mitigation system put in, right? So you don't even have to mention that. So if there's nothing that we want to have fixed, you're gonna say nothing is required. You're just gonna write in the box, nothing required by seller. And you're gonna have your client sign it and you're gonna get it to the other agent because you don't want it just to lapse. You don't want to go past that time period. You wanna have a trail. I don't like letting things lapse. Now, if there are items that you want to ask for, if the radon was high, you're gonna ask for a radon mitigation system to be installed. You're gonna ask for, let's say the electrical box had double tap, or you had 2 wires going into the same breaker. That's something the inspector's gonna pick up on, those kind of things. I tell my clients, safety items is what we're after. When we do a home inspection for the buyer, I tell my buyer, we're really looking for safety items. We're not here to have them tighten a loose toilet or put a outlet cover on an outlet. Those are little dicky things that we can do after we own the house. Because it is, however, a used house, things happen, right? If it's a brand new construction, yes, those things need to be done. But if it's an existing house, little things, you're gonna paint anyway, right? You're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. When you buy a house, there are certain things that you're just gonna do anyway as a new homeowner. But big things, electrical, plumbing, roof, foundation, things like a sump pump, that's a big one. A sump pump, sometimes people put those into the sewer drain instead of putting it outside like it's supposed to be. And if it's not directed outside, I ask for that. Hot water heater that's leaking or doesn't have the expansion tank, or what is it, that pipe that comes down to the floor. They have the release. Yeah, the release valve. If something leaks, it'll shoot straight up in the air. Oh, that's not good. So we have a pipe put down to the floor. So if something happens to the hot water heater and it starts spewing water all over the place, at least it goes down that tube, right? Things like that are safety issues. Those are the things that we're going to ask for. And then we ask for those items, we list it. What I like to do might be a little dirty pool, but what I like to do is first of all, you ask your buyer if it's okay. Is it okay if I send the inspection report with our request? Used to be where you would take the item that we're asking for, you would take that bit out of the inspection and send it. So to verify that, yes, that was a problem. I like to send it, the whole thing, because I like to let them see that there were quite a few items that we didn't ask for that came up, right? So although we are asking for some things, there are quite a few that we didn't ask for. So I kind of like to give that to them. Plus, if our deal doesn't go through, now they know about those items. So they might have to disclose it now.
But they can also use it for the next buyer.
They can use it
They're
for the
like,
next
"Yeah,
one."
already expect inspection done.
Yep, they can do it. They can do that.
But that's, yeah,
Yeah,
I see
whatever.
your point. It's not I mean,
It's not a huge deal.
Yes,
To be honest with you, there's a lot of buyers that will not use a previous home inspection
I can see that.
because they want their own guy looking at it. Or they want somebody looking out for their interests.
I think I would use it if it was for another client, but not if it was done by the owner.
Correct.
I would trust that better.
Yes, no, you're right. You're exactly right. So we're gonna ask for those items. The buyer is gonna sign it. And we're going to send that with, the home inspection or whatever you wanna send, to the other agent, and our obligation, our 12-day obligation is done with that. Now, let's say, and I just had this phone call. That's why I was a little late coming in, because I had another agent asking me a question. And she said, well, Will, we're still, and it was a deal that fell through or might fall through, but she said, Will, we're still in our 5-day grace period to answer. And I go, did you respond to them? And she goes, well, yes, we did. Well, you're really kind of done. You don't have, so let's say, for example, we do the 12-day, right? We send this on day number 8. That seller doesn't have 4 more days plus their 5 days. You understand what I'm talking about in the purchase agreement under the inspection clause? Do you guys want to go back to the inspection clause?
Well, yeah,
The second page of the purchase agreement, number 13, section 13. Where we ask for 12 business days, so
Mhm.
we have the 12
Yes.
business days to do this.
yeah, we did
Right.
explain it to us before that it doesn't mean like you plus those. So when inspection is done, I mean, you have the days for inspection, even if you had 10, 12, but you did it on the 5th day, right? And the count for that other 5 starts on that.
Correct, very good, yep, you understand that. And the 5 days. That agent was saying, well, we still have 5 days. Well, but you answered them on the second day of that 5-day. Now, if you're going back and forth, yes, you're going back and forth. But that other agent said, we're done. Because they didn't want to do some of the things. So nope, we're done. They sent over cancellation. She goes, well, we still have our 5 days. Well, okay, I guess you can still kind of negotiate back and forth, but if that other client wants to be done, if that buyer wants out now, not a lot you can do. They want out. They sent their contingency removal saying, we want this done. You came back and said, no. We gave too much. We took a lower price. We did this, we did that. And now you want this? No, we're not doing it. The other agent sent a cancellation over. And now the seller is going, oh, wait a minute. You know what? Maybe we will do that, those items that you asked for.
But you're too late, right?
Now, could they resurrect it? Yes, they could. They could resurrect it. If buyer and seller or agents got together and said, okay, my bad, we'll go ahead and do these things. Well, okay, I'll ask my buyer, but my buyer's pretty upset. They might just want to walk away. So that's their prerogative. But for her saying we're still in that negotiation period, well, you should have thought of that before you just tried to play hardball, right? And that's what I told her. I said, you want to tell them to stick it, but really, it was a pretty good offer. I mean, yeah, they came down, but you know what? You accepted it. Your buyers accepted it because it was cash. And there's a quick close. They accepted it. Now they came back with something that they found on the inspection. Well, that's their prerogative, right? that buyer had that obligation. You knew in that purchase agreement that they were doing a home inspection. And they could come back and ask for something to be done. You said you accepted the purchase agreement with that. If you would have not wanted to do any repairs as a seller, if you thought, well, we're giving them everything, we're taking $20,000 less or whatever it is. If you didn't want to do any repairs from a home inspection, you should have countered them and said, at this price, we won't be doing, your inspection is for information purposes only. Now, they could back out from that. But you told that buyer that, hey, you can do the home inspection, that's great. And if you want to back out from the home inspection, that's fine. If I'm taking it for this much less, anything that you find is on you. You guys can deal with it or walk away. But they didn't say that. They came back. They said, this is what we want now, something to the effect of $3,200. They said, either fix it, because they got a contractor come over and give an estimate. You either fix it or take $3,200 off the price of the house and we'll fix it when we close. And the seller said, no, we gave you too much. Sent it back. And sent it back, and then then all of a sudden they get a cancellation from the buyers. So
Maybe they should have met in the middle or something.
well, and I think they were going to try to do that, but I just think everybody, and it was a high dollar deal.
And I forgot to resurrect. Would you have to rewrite a whole new purchase agreement, or can you just?
No, you could kind of go back to. You could kind of go back to the request from the contingency removal and do an addendum to the purchase agreement to say, let's say they decided to lower the price $3,200. So they would just do an addendum.
Mhm.
Purchase price is,
After they've already canceled though,
yeah, you just kind of forget about those. You know what I mean?
But that's only if they're both willing.
If they're both
Given
willing.
that somebody just wants out, you can do.
Yep.
But it can happen though that like when somebody sends this request and to the seller, can seller then, they can partially agree, right? It's still gonna be not a cancellation. They can say like, we agree to do this and this, but not that.
Yes.
That's
So
still okay.
So
until
yes,
Somebody.
so right here, that's on the second part of the contingency removal, and I'm glad you said that. Because let's say we ask for 5 items
Mhm.
at the top here. This is just like a counter offer, right? Accepts the
Ah,
contingency
so fine.
removal subject to the following changes, so. If they're willing to do 4 of the items. You could say, seller will do items 1 through 4, but not 5, or whatever, those kind of things. And then you resubmit it, and does the buyer accept it or not?
Okay.
And if they don't, again, just like a counteroffer, they do a new contingency removal. Right?
now is that different? Like, what if it can't be done for like 2 months?
Well, those kind of things, they get a little more complicated because then they do escrow holdbacks and things like that. So example, let's say you're doing a roof and it's winter, right? And then they can't really do a roof, or they, sometimes they can squeeze it in on a nice day or something like that. But they'll get an estimate on the roof. So let's say the roof is $10,000. Okay. The escrow holdback is going to usually be done by the title company. So let's say we're supposed to close on January 15th. January 15th, and we can't really do that. That roof on January 15th, so it might have to be done in March or April. So we're gonna close. The seller is going to. Cause the seller agreed to do it, right? So that seller got the estimate for $10,000. They're gonna escrow $15,000 because it's 1.5 times.
Okay,
So from their proceeds of the sale, $15,000 is gonna be held by the title company. When that roofer gets done in April, he's gonna submit the bill to the title company. It's $10,000. They're gonna cut him a check for $10,000, and then they'll send that $5,000 to the seller. The reason they do more is if the estimate,
if those tariffs kick in,
yeah,
Well,
it's
that's something always
$12,000, yeah.
right, usually go
but
up.
where would you write that? That's in,
We would do an addendum to the purchase agreement.
okay,
That would be the addendum of the purchase agreement. All right, so this is the contingency removal form, so I think we got a good handle on that. If you flip the page, there's your addendum to the purchase agreement. Oh, is that not what you see?
no, I do, I just was keeping my brains through
Okay.
what all.
So the addendum, what do we use the addendum to the purchase agreement for?
Apparently a roof.
Apparently, or anytime we change something with the purchase agreement. So. An escrow holdback is something that we're going to add to the purchase agreement, right? So we're gonna do that. We use it for a price change. Let's say that the example I just gave for the $3,200. Let's say that they agree to it and that comes back and says, you know what, we'll take $3,200 less for the property and you guys can buy it. So we're gonna do an addendum to the purchase agreement saying that the purchase price is now whatever. I don't even know what the price was. It's gonna be $3,200 less than what we originally agreed upon, right? If a closing date changes. So this whole time we had closing, on September 15th, well, let's say something happened where they can't close until the 20th. Closing date to be September 20th. Even if, let's say, September 15th comes. And they can't close till the 20th. And you don't do an addendum, changing it, and you don't have a contract on the 15th or on the 16th, you don't have a contract. So maybe everybody's okay and are willing to close, which they probably are, but you can't take that chance, right? So if you know that, hey, we can't close to the 20th, you do an addendum right now. And everybody, you call the other agent and say, hey, Dan, we can't close until the 20th. The lender's still waiting on whatever. I'm gonna send you over an addendum. Now, your client might. Here's an example. Let's say you've got a backup offer. Say you have a backup offer.
That's the way out.
That's your backup offer. Your backup offer is $5,000 more than the offer we're doing, right?
Mhm.
But it came in after ours. And you just accept it as a backup offer, but you've got it sitting there. And I call you and I say, hey, Dan, my client can't close to the 20th because the lender's waiting on some things.
I have cash in a wheelbarrow ready to close on the 15th.
And that other guy's ready to go. And even if he's not ready to close, but it's $5,000 more, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you're willing to start over for $5,000 more, right? you can say, you know what, if they can't close by the 15th, we're just gonna let this go because I got a backup offer that we'd like to accept, or we'd like to put into first place. You can tell them that. You can say, no, we're not gonna do it. Why not, Dan? Gosh, really? You're gonna go ahead and, well, we've got a backup offer that is better than your offer. Oh.
That's tough.
What if in that case they will say, if you agree to our addendum, we're also gonna pay the difference on your offer, on your second offer? Can that play any difference?
That's a really good question.
Like if they
Yeah.
don't wanna lose that deal, they
Yeah.
are almost ready, right?
Yeah, so let's say, you know, I tell you that and you go, no, we're not gonna sign it. And I say, well, what if, Dan, what if we go 6,000 over? We'll up our price. And you're gonna go, oh, okay, so now we're gonna close on the 20th. But we're making $6,000 more, so we're up over this other guy.
Yeah,
Here's the thing, appraisal's already been done,
oh,
so if you had room on the appraisal, that's good, you can do that.
right.
Or your client, if your client's got the $6,000, they can bring that in, so that could be an option.
Would it still be part of an addendum?
Yes, you would do, purchase price to be $6,000 more, closing date to be September 20th. And you're okay. Now, of course, the lender's gonna have to okay it. You know, you're
Oh.
gonna have to get an update on the title insurance, which is not a problem. So there's gonna have to be some things that happen. You just can't say, all right, I'll bring you a check. I mean,
Yeah,
things have to,
okay.
you know, other things have to happen, but yeah, that could be an option. Never had that.
But at least it's a
But
possibility.
yeah, it sure could be. Yeah, I don't see why not. That would
And
be kind of cool.
everybody's commission, they get more money with that extra 6,000.
Yeah, you know what? And sometimes you get this. Realtors commission based on the original price of blah, blah, blah.
Okay, yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, that happens.
But it's still better than completely lose a deal
Yeah,
and
oh yeah,
and get
Yeah.
zero commission.
that's always been my
Yeah,
thought.
we weren't even counting on the other.
You know, you get this every once in a while. You'll get this statement from a buyer or seller. Well, of course you want to sell it to me higher because you get paid more money. Well, really? So if you do a $5,000 price increase and I'm getting paid 3%,
Yeah,
what is that?
It's not that much.
$150? It's that? I don't even know if it's that. Yeah, it probably is. It's 51% of 5,000 is 50, right?
yeah,
So yeah, so I'm gonna make $150 more. Not worth me jeopardizing, you know, anything. $150 is nothing when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'm not gonna jeopardize my reputation for $150. That's kind of how I put it to them when they say that. Cause you will get that. You'll get smart ass sellers saying that. And it's like, it's not worth it. So don't worry. I've got your best interest. All right, so anytime you're changing anything on the purchase agreement, we use an addendum. Make sure all addendums get turned into who they need to be turned into. Lenders is main thing. Title company. Other agent. Okay. Let's back up one page to the contingency removal. That does not get shared with the lender or title company. Do not share contingency removal or inspection with the lender or the title company.
Hmm.
Title company doesn't want it. Lenders sometimes do, and I don't send it because a lender is gonna get an inspection report and they're gonna send it to their underwriter. And that underwriter will ask for every single thing that's on a home inspection. And sometimes we've negotiated things, sometimes we've asked for a lesser amount. And we don't want them knowing that. Right?
Mhm. So what did you tell them to like?
I just say, and we don't get it from, usually we don't get it from local lenders, we get it from national lenders, you know, if you do a, whatever. USAA or, you know, one of those. Zillow, or I don't know, what are the lenders? Rocket Mortgage, you know, those kind of places.
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, we need a copy of the home inspection, and I say to them, that is not customary in our market, we do not share that with the lender. And I fight to the death on that one. You know, sometimes you gotta give it to them, but I just don't, because I don't want them. We negotiated already,
Mhm.
you know, the buyer is happy with what the seller is doing. And the seller might have come down in price on something. Well, now all of a sudden the lender's saying, well, yeah, the price is lower, but we want the toilet tightened and we want, you know, all the little dinky
Yeah.
things. And it's like, that's not part of the deal, you know, so I kind of
So
push
you
it.
said we don't share inspection and which other document? To the lenders and.
The contingency
But the
removal,
content,
yeah, I don't send that. Because what if we had a list of 6 things and the seller only wanted to do 4 of them?
Mhm.
Now that lender's saying, well, I want those other 2 items fixed. And it's like, come on, really? If you, let's say radon. Let's say it said, to do a radon mitigation system, okay? And that lender sees that. We agreed. Let's say we agreed to a price reduction because
You're gonna do
the
it.
buyer was gonna do it themselves after they bought the house. They're gonna make that be done before the house is sold. And a lender will make sure a radon system is done. Because they see it as, they don't want liability of selling a house that needs a radon system and it may not ever get done, who knows, you know. Somebody, you know, if you're getting a house for $2,500 less. And the buyer asked for it, but just asked for a price reduction, maybe they have no intention on getting a system put in. You know, so that's why I don't do it, because I don't like muddying the water, you know.
Yeah,
things
no,
like
that makes sense. I'm just wondering how, you said, just tell them it's
I
not
just-
customer in the market.
Yeah, that's what I try, you know, and they usually don't ask, but,
Right. But if they do,
and I've had new agents, not from us, but new agents.
Sharing.
One of them sent the whole works to their lender.
Mm.
Now all of a sudden we have to do all this stuff. It's like, you dork, what did you do that for?
I can see when you're new, just thinking, all right, send
Yeah.
everything, I don't know.
If you don't have somebody tell you not to do it, I mean, you're probably thinking, hey,
Right.
man, I'm on the ball. I'm
Right.
sending all this to everybody. And it would be something that you probably would do.
Yeah,
You know, not at your fault, but you'll never do it again.
yeah.
All right, next one. If it's 2:30, do you guys can you go till 2:45?
Yeah.
Okay. Cancellation of purchase agreement, that's the next one. And this is really the last one.
This is sad.
We don't want this one. Now, remember I was telling you the story, about the $3,200 deal and
Yeah.
all that? So when I said that she sent a cancellation of purchase agreement to cancel the contract, this is the form she used. So buyer and seller, you're gonna fill out buyer name, you're gonna fill out seller name, property address, the date of the original purchase agreement. That's tying this form to the original purchase agreement. And it talks about for and in consideration of mutual release and acknowledgements below, undersigned, agree. Basically, the purchase agreement is canceled, terminated, null and void, no further force or effect. That's basically saying it's dead. Dead deal. Earnest money. So that's where you're gonna put how much earnest money was attached to the purchase agreement. Let's just say $4,000. In that other case, that I was telling you, it was $10,000. So $10,000 in earnest money is presently held by First American Title Company. The parties further agreed that the earnest money shall be distributed as follows. Well, this particular property was supposed to close, I think on Friday or Monday. Maybe it was Monday coming up, just like in 3 days, right? Or 3 business days. They asked for the buyer, remember the buyer agent did this cancellation of the purchase agreement. They asked for all 10,000 to be given to the buyer.
Mhm.
Now, that buyer agent is arguing the reason we're getting out of it is because we couldn't come to terms on the home inspection, right? Because we asked
Mhm.
the home inspection, we asked for a price reduction and the seller refused. So because the seller refused, we are asking for our money back. Totally acceptable reason, right? Seller agent is saying, well, this is drug out because you guys are doing a quick close. We're 3 days before closing. We feel that we should be able to hold, get the earnest money ourselves because blah, blah, blah. She came up with some goofy reason. And I'm just like, I told her, she's a pretty good agent. I told her, I says, it's kind of tight. I said, really? You guys didn't agree to do what they asked for. So they're backing out. Yeah, and it was quick. So do I think that maybe those buyers had a change of heart and they just wanted to get the heck out of there quick? I think so. But they did it under the rules. And so they're getting out of it. So all 10,000 to the buyer. So this other agent told me, Will, I think we're gonna fight this. Okay, so what do you mean? Well, I don't think we're gonna sign the cancellation of purchase agreement. Okay. Well, keep in mind, if you don't sign it, you cannot put the property back on the market as active because you still have an active purchase agreement, right? So you cannot put it back active while there's a dispute with earnest money. Now, I believe that you can dispute earnest money after the original contract expires. So a lot of times when these cancellations happen, you might have 30 days. If you're disputing earnest money, you might have 30 days before the actual close date on the original purchase agreement happened, right? In this case, it's only 3 days. It's August 1st. Not a big time to. You know what? It is August. So it's only 2 days because it was Friday. I keep forgetting that August 1st is Friday. I was thinking it was Monday. So yeah, it was August 1st. So really, the thing's gonna die August 1st anyway. So not a big deal. Once it's past that August 1st time, you can put it back active because that buyer didn't perform. So one of the parties didn't perform, right? So the buyer didn't show up to closing. So that earnest money kind of gets held in limbo. Then I think they can list it again. That would be a good Carol question. And Carol didn't like those questions either because it's such a gray. Gray area.
Hopefully, stuff like this doesn't come out.
Doesn't happen a whole bunch of times, but when deals fall through, when it comes to earnest money, that's where we have the most disputes. I would think things go to court or go to small claims court. Most often, it's dispute of earnest money.
But if there was a contingency on inspection, I mean, it kind of makes sense that if buyer doesn't like it and seller didn't agree, I mean, since there was contingency, it kind of goes back to buyer. What is the good example when
When seller gets it?
when seller gets it? I mean, like you said, maybe buyer didn't just show up for closing it, right? I mean,
Right, a
Yes.
buyer, yeah,
like when it's not a gray area,
Mhm.
that's the case, would be the case.
right.
Okay.
Right, let's say that you, as a buyer, removed all your contingencies. So you've
Right.
got your lending. The appraisal happened and everything was good. You guys did your home inspection and everything was agreed upon. And at the last minute, as a buyer, just decided, I don't really want this house. Or I see another house that I like more. That's been the house that I've seen forever and it's finally up for sale. I want this house. Let's get out of this one. That's when you're gonna lose your earnest money. Or you can get sued. That's the other thing. So let's say, let's do that scenario. Let's say that your buyer saw a house that they've been dreaming about forever and wants to get out of their current deal, right? You're gonna do a cancellation of purchase agreement. You're gonna even give the earnest money to the seller.
But they want specific performance, is that one?
That's specific performance. So let's say you want to get out of it and you want to get out of it so bad that you've got $5,000 earnest money and you're willing to give that 5,000 to the seller so we can walk away. And that seller says, nope. We're gonna sue you because I know that you're still approved. You've gone through the motions, we've packed up, we've
Right.
moved.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
And you're gonna buy our house because you told us you were gonna buy our house.
yeah.
That's-
They're not wrong.
Yeah, no, they're not wrong. So that seller's gonna weigh, okay, we get $5,000. Or do we spend money on a lawyer and try to force them to buy our house? How are we gonna do that? So what would you do?
Depending on where you were. There's,
I'd say it depends on how much
Yeah.
the earnest money were and how much.
I mean, if you've got your backup offer.
You got a backup offer, yeah, absolutely.
So you can still keep the earnest money too, right?
You can keep the earnest money, yeah, and you don't need to let them know you got a backup offer, take the earnest money and you use that. Here's an idea, and we have used this. They're giving us some money. What if we came back as the seller agent, we come back and you say, you really put us in a tough spot here. And we're kind of weighing the fact, maybe suing you for specific performance. Unless you up that earnest money to $10,000. So if you give us 10 grand, we'll let you out of it. And we've done that.
And did they still get out or did they, well, I
Yeah.
think let's go ahead and buy the house.
Nope, they got out.
Okay.
They gave us the 10,000 and got out of it. So, but that's another thing that you can do. I mean, you can do a lot of,
Yeah,
I don't say cool things, but different creative kind of things.
So that is tough if you're like, your stuff's in moving boxes, you start your new job or wherever, and all of a sudden.
So
Let's
here's,
get back
here's
up.
the other thing, contingencies. Lending approval is a contingency. Okay,
Also go by the boat.
you can go by the boat, or, so here's what happened just a couple days ago to me, to my client. I got an approval letter from the bank for my client. And they were waiting on a letter from he was coming from Alaska. He was getting out of the military and he was moving back home. And he was waiting for a letter of employment because he was gonna work for the police, up in Spearfish. And they were doing a background check on him and they said, well, we're doing the background check and we'll get you a letter as soon as, here's what you're gonna be making. But we haven't officially hired you yet, right? So we're waiting for this. We have a house, it was supposed to close Friday. Last Friday. We extended it to tomorrow. Monday, he calls me and he says, Spearfish Police Department just called me and said they hired somebody else.
Mm.
So now I don't have a job and I'm scrambling. Well,
That's rude.
it's very rude. But anyway, I had to call the other agent and say, we're sending you over a cancellation. Told her the situation. And we asked for the earnest money back. I felt like a schmuck asking for our earnest money back just because these people were gone.
Oh, wow.
They were moving to another state. They were already in the other state waiting for this
Yeah.
house to close so they can buy a house.
But it wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault. And I said to him, I go, you're not getting your loan. The lender will give you a denial letter because they can't give you the loan now because you don't have a job. And we're gonna ask for your earnest money back. And I was waiting for him to say, because he was feeling pretty bad for those people. Will, why don't we just let him have it? But he didn't. He didn't. I was
But
waiting.
you have
Because
it.
most people
We'll did all the
don't-
work too. It doesn't get anything out of it.
No, but I'm gonna sell him another
Yeah,
house
yeah.
eventually,
Oh.
but he didn't ask and I'm working for him, so I didn't suggest it. But if he would have said something, I would have said, yeah, you can definitely give it to him. Or maybe give him half of it or something, something like that. But we didn't, and they signed it and we were done, so.
Instead, you just asked the Spearfish Police Department to send it to them.
Yeah,
Jeez,
that's
that's,
ridiculous. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
it's not
But
like he wanted.
him getting that job was or was not part of the contingency.
Yeah, well, the contingency was lending.
Yes, Lynn, okay.
So, yeah, so he didn't get the job, so thus far they could
Yeah.
not give him the money for the house.
As long as it was in a contingency, I think it's at least fair,
Oh, yeah.
even
No,
if
yeah.
it's not
No,
nice.
It's not the. Yeah,
Yeah,
but he could have, even though. He had the right to his earnest money back because that was the contingency on financing. He could have said, hey, let's give it to him or let's give him half,
Yeah,
but. No, I get it, but I didn't want to say, hey, why don't you give him half, I didn't feel that.
no.
If he would have said something, I would have said, yeah, you could definitely do that, but I wasn't gonna suggest it, because I didn't want him to think that I was pushing him to do it.
Yeah,
So those are kind of things that you gotta watch too. So anyway, that's how you split out earnest money, that's how you, cancel the purchase agreement. If your buyer wants to cancel and the seller doesn't want to, that's when you have That's when you have problems. I've seen it also where, $5,000 to the buyer. Well, that seller, once we send it to that seller and that seller goes, well, no, I want some earnest money. They'll write their own cancellation. So we'll sign ours. They'll do another one and sign theirs, and they might ask for the earnest money themselves. Or maybe they split it. Maybe they write a deal that says 2,500 to me, 2,500 to them. And then that seller agent's gonna say, well, we're not signing this, but we're gonna present you with our own cancellation. Here's what we're gonna do. And then we get it, maybe it's split. Then I go to my buyer and say, well, you know what, they don't want to give you the whole earnest money, but they are willing to split it with you. What do you think? Then you're out of the deal. You don't have to worry about getting sued. And so that's how you kind of negotiate back and forth. Worst thing to do is fight about earnest money. Because then you kind of hold up the property. That seller's property is kind of held in limbo until the contract is fully done. Or you work something out. It's kind of hard. It's really hard to keep buyers' earnest money. That's one thing that I say when I'm filling out a purchase agreement. I'll say, here's earnest money, here's what earnest money's for. The only time you're really gonna lose it is if you back out of the deal with all your contingencies removed. That's really the only time you can lose it. Which is true. It's really hard to take buyers' money. Which kind of sucks because the seller, what is it for, Hey, I promised I'm giving you $10,000 saying that I'm buying this house, and all of a sudden something changes. Just like this deal we were talking about, $10,000. They wanted it. They wanted a quick close. They wanted to be in by the rally. And now all of a sudden one little thing didn't go right and you want to back out, totally bail on it. Something happened. They just using the roof as an excuse. That's what I feel. And you're gonna get, and that's what happened. All right, so we got through this. The other documents are Northern Hills documents. So it's basically the same thing, just Mount Rushmore board. And I don't know, or maybe you guys don't even have those in there. I do in mine. So what we're gonna do next week is we're gonna start CMAs.
Yay.
And those are fun because CMAs, then we actually do, I'll go over them, show you how to do them, and then we're gonna pick a property and we're all gonna do a CMA. You're gonna do one, you're gonna do one, I'll do one. And we'll the reason I do it that way is because I want to make sure you guys understand how to adjust plus and minus. So a lot of times agents will flip it around. They add when they're supposed to subtract. And it's kind of
easy to make that mistake.
Oh yeah, very easy. So it's fun. And then we get to have discussion on how you came up with a certain number or something like that. So it's cool. Okay, that is it.
Thank you.
All right, yes, thank you. There's more stuff to figure out.
Well,
Yes.
nope.
Oh no,
I'm gonna call her.
I was gonna say now it's
maybe she needs rescuing.
Yeah, maybe she does. Maybe she has